Okay, so remember, you just got to go down.
Yeah.
Like really fast. You ready? 1, 2, 3. We get a lot of questions on our channel about apple cider vinegar. So we decided to dive into the research a little bit and kind of find out what's what with this just amazing concoction. And what we found was pretty interesting. It turns out that there are studies on apple cider vinegar with lipid profiles and apple cider vinegar with glucose management and insulin sensitivity. And a lot of those obviously revolve around diabetics, diabetes, that kind of thing. Well, if you didn't know, Two Fit Docs here again with another informative video. And
yeah, and so we wanted to dive into the research on apple cider vinegar specifically for your blood sugar, because I know a lot of people who have trouble losing weight have insulin resistance, where their insulin's not shuttling that glucose into their cells well enough. So, like this guy. So why don't you go ahead and we have a couple of studies to just bring to you.
So this first one was the effect of apple cider vinegar on blood glucose level in diabetic mice. So they found diabetic mice. So therefore in the study it has been revealed that apple cider vinegar has a considerable reducing effect on blood glucose levels in diabetic mice. It was really difficult to kind of figure out what the dosage levels would be for an adult from a mouse study.
Right.
So that was just kind of oh, well, that's interesting, so let's go further.
Right, it supports the thought that apple cider vinegar has benefits for glucose metabolism, sugar metabolism. This study on vinegar improves insulin sensitivity to a high-carb meal. So what they did in this study is they took insulin-sensitive people, insulin-resistant people, and type 2 diabetics, and they split them into groups, gave them apple cider vinegar before eating a high-carb meal, and that high-carb meal had like 87 grams of carbohydrates, and then they tested their blood afterwards at 30 minutes, I believe, and 60 minutes. What they found was by taking that apple cider vinegar before the high-carb meal, they were they had a lot of improvement in their insulin sensitivity.
Right, so their blood glucose went up as expected from the meal, but then it also came down more normally, whereas an insulin-resistant person, it would stay high and stay high for a longer period of time.
Yep, good. Okay.
Yep. So, again, the dosages were, some of these dosages
this was in grams. This was 20 grams of apple cider vinegar, and they actually mixed it with water and a teaspoon of saccharin.
Yeah.
So,
and our apologies to our non-American viewers that we don't do well with trying to figure out grams.
Well, it would be milliliters. I'm not really sure.
I guess it would be.
Yeah.
So this next study said vinegar ingestion at bedtime moderates waking glucose concentration in adults with well-controlled type 2 diabetes. So this one, it said consuming either 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, the 2 groups, or water at bedtime with an ounce of cheese, which is kind of interesting because they threw in the cheese to kind of mimic maybe a typical, having a little late night snack or something, and also to mitigate some of the taste of the vinegar, okay? So they found out that fasting glucose was reduced 2% in the placebo group and 4% in the vinegar treatment. Okay.
So vinegar had a better result.
Had a better result. Now they also speculate that the protein may have had some little bit of synergistic effect, but they don't really know. So, it's one of those things you do a study and then afterwards you go, darn it,
Right.
And this one is also because they did find a better response if your fasting glucose was above 130 milligrams per deciliter or 7.2 millimolar per liter, and a little bit less. Still positive, but a little bit less if it was under 130 or 7.2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, our conclusion from the research that we did on apple cider vinegar is that it does have benefits. If you are insulin resistant, it could help you become more insulin sensitive.
Yeah.
And so we took from that point, we wanted to decide, well, what would be a good dose and when to utilize it.
Right.
And kind of what we came up with was a good starting place.
was what this study used.
Yeah.
One of the studies used like 2.7 tablespoons like twice a day. That's a lot.
Yeah,
So
it's not,
we're going to
it's
stick
not
with
tasty.
2 tablespoons at bedtime. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
this study did, and I think that would be doable for most people.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So if you wake up with a high blood glucose and you want to see if you can get that under control with apple cider vinegar, that would be what our recommendation would be.
Right.
Start with 2 tablespoons at night before you go to bed.
right. Let's talk about the vinegar too.
Yeah, good point. So you can buy cheapo apple cider vinegars. Don't do that. You want the ones that look cloudy. They have the kind of the sediment on the bottom. That's called the mother. That is the apple cider vinegar that you want to get. This is Bragg's.
It even says with the mother on there.
Yeah, it does. Bragg's is, at least in the United States, is a very common one in our grocery stores. You might want to look in the health food aisle, but it's typically there.
Right. So we have
Yeah.
2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar measured out.
Yeah.
So we're going to just throw it down here and right on camera so you can see how easy it is to take. You go first.
Oh, I'm not going first. We're going together.
Oh, all
Yeah.
right.
It's not the tastiest stuff. That's
No.
kind of the point.
And some of these studies used water, but in my opinion, that just means there's more of it to get
Yeah.
through. So,
Yeah, you can dilute it with water if you want. We're going to just shoot it down. I think I've only done this once in my life, and I remember it being pretty bad.
yeah. Okay. So remember, you just got to go down.
Yeah.
Like really fast. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh.
Okay.
Thumbs up on the apple cider vinegar. Yuck.
Burns my throat.
Okay, well, it's like after a few seconds, it's like getting okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
But that initial
Yeah.
is like, wow, that's pretty sour.